Hello and welcome to episode 11 of BVM Sports Chalk Talk, and our first show of the new year. I'm Scott Procter, joined as always by Lucas Semb, and for the first time, Isaiah Butler filling in for Matt Morris. We're coming off a jam-packed weekend of football as the National Championship is set, and so is the NFL Playoff picture. That's where we'll begin as we take a look at three AFC quarterbacks looking to pick up their first career playoff victory. Lucas, between Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson, who do you have the most confidence in this weekend to accomplish that?
Yeah, I'm passionate about this one. I got Lamar Jackson getting his first playoff win this weekend. It starts by examining the Titans' defense. In 8 of their 16 regular season games this year, they've allowed 30 or more points to opponents. They allow the most points per game of any playoff team this year. So now deflecting that point over to the Ravens' offense, they are the 7th highest scoring offense in the league, and they've hit their stride at the right time. Like I mentioned last week, they haven't scored less than 27 points in a game since their Week 12 loss, and Lamar Jackson is back in MVP form. He's the first NFL player to ever rush for over 1,000 yards and pass for over 1,000 yards in back-to-back seasons. When he gets scoring opportunities, he's immaculate, and he's going to get those opportunities versus the Titans. In his career in the red zone, this sounds like a fake stat. Lamar Jackson has 46 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. He's now gotten to the playoffs all 3 years of his career. He's had an MVP. And, now the playoff win needs to fall in line, and I think this is the matchup that'll allow it. A rematch with the Titans from last year who eliminated him, no better way to get it.
I kind of agree with you a little bit that Lamar Jackson, when he gets to the red zone, he's going to be you can't stop him. But his last couple of games, the overall opponents he's faced are 28, 51, and 1. So he really hasn't faced that stiff of competition. And going into the playoffs, it's going to be a tough matchup for him. That Mike Vrabel's defense he's gonna know how to stop him. I don't think he's gonna win, but it's gonna be an exciting matchup though.
Yeah, that's a good point, Isaiah, because Lucas definitely loves bringing up strength and schedule and who you've played recently. So that's definitely something to look at. I'm going to go ahead with this one. And, I've been notoriously cynical, kind of on Josh Allen. And, my skepticism on him is, pretty well documented. But, he beat the Dolphins on Sunday, a team that I was very high on, basically in one half of work. And he's had a Pro Bowl season, however you slice it. With that being said, I actually believe Josh Allen is the quarterback most likely to pick up his first career playoff win this weekend. But I think it'll have more to do with the quarterback he's playing against than himself. Phillip Rivers has 11 career playoff starts. He's 5-6, completing less than 60% of his passes in those games, and has 10 interceptions in those 11 games. He didn't have it for a 2018 playoff run with the 12-4 Chargers at age 37. So I definitely don't believe he has enough in the take now at 39, with the team that's, not really as talented as that Chargers team, albeit obviously the Colts have a top 10 defense. And not only that, but the Colts' best 2 wins of the season are against Tennessee and in overtime against Green Bay, which we all know who watched that game. They really stole that one on back-to-back weeks in weeks 10 and 11. They've gone 4-2 since then, with wins coming over Houston twice, Jacksonville, and the Raiders, obviously non-playoff teams. And then even to piggyback on that, Phillip Rivers hasn't had a multi-touchdown game in nearly 3 months since the mid-October game against Cincinnati. The Bills, meanwhile, they've won 6 straight since their Hail Mary loss in Arizona, with quality wins over Pittsburgh and the aforementioned Miami. Buffalo's secondary, who I love, we talked about a little bit about them last week. Tre'Davious White and Josh Norman at that cornerback spot, and Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde in the back end is scary. They will make Phillip Rivers look like a 40-year-old this weekend. And if Josh Allen simply doesn't mess this up with his plethora of weapons, he plays for the better team. So, he should be able to earn his first playoff win.
I'm excited for this one. I think it's the opportunity for Josh Allen to kind of prove himself more to you, facing an elite defense, right?
Absolutely.
So I think he's going to have a good opportunity this weekend. But here's my one knock on your take here. I think that Phillip Rivers, this is, he's an all-timer, I think, as a QB in the NFL. He's got lots of yards. He's got lots of touchdowns.
He sure has the stats, that's for sure.
I think that this, knowing that this could be his last season, I think he's going to empty the tank. I think the Colts offense has produced a lot more than any of us would have thought this season. I'll say that. I will say that. I didn't think they're going to have high-scoring offense, and they've scored a lot of points this year. So I think Phillip Rivers is going to show a little something in the playoffs that he hasn't proven he can do yet, because this could be the last run for him.
Yeah, I get that, but in terms of the Colts offense, they've been about what I expect. They have, again, I've said this on the show before too, they have one of the best offensive line units in football, period. They might have the best offensive lineman, period, in guard Quentin Nelson. So they're predicated on the run game. Jonathan Taylor's obviously a great-looking rookie. Shout out the Badgers. But, this team lives and dies by its defense and the run game. Phillip Rivers is an afterthought. And in the playoffs, where the Bills are likely to put up at least 28 points, Phillip Rivers is going to be relied on to push the ball down the field. And I just don't know if he has it at 39 years old, especially going on the road to Buffalo. I don't know.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Scott. I think to your point last week, I know you said that Kansas City is probably the contender. You think no one can contend with them, but I think the Buffalo Bills are coming out of the AFC and going to be representing the AFC in the Super Bowl this year. So I agree with that. Josh Allen is going to be getting his first victory this week. Then for me, Baker Mayfield, I think, is going to be a sleeper to get his first playoff victory this week too. The last time, everyone knows, this is the Browns' first time in the playoffs since 2003. The Browns came up a little bit shy there. 36-33 was the final score. But in Mayfield's last 5 games, he has a passer rating of 106.6, 9 touchdowns and 1 interception, and a completion percentage of 67%. He hasn't turned the ball over, and that's pretty much key for Baker Mayfield. When he doesn't turn the ball over, they win. And the last time they played at Heinz Field, the Steelers got on him early, so he was rattled. He never had a chance to settle in, and he never had Nick Chubb there to take the pressure off of him. He had to throw the ball continuously, so the run game really wasn't established with Nick Chubb missing. The offensive line, it's one of the best in the league. So for them to step up, I think Baker Mayfield is going to win his first playoff game this week against Pittsburgh.
I could pick that up. I could pick this apart all day long. I have to go back to last week. They're playing against Mason Rudolph, and they win by 3 points. And what was a really
they
close
also
game.
Played against 60% of the Steelers' starting defense. 60%. I know they were resting T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward. I know they were resting their stars. Yeah. What happened the last time the Steelers rested their starters?
The Steelers played a lot of their guys on Sunday. I don't take anything away from their Week 17 win over Pittsburgh to clinch their playoff berth. That's a great win, and I'm super excited for this matchup this weekend because these two teams obviously know each other as good as anybody. Obviously, they're division rivals. Each other a ton. Even just in the second half of this season here. And I really like. Obviously, I came on the show last week. And said that I still believe the Pittsburgh Steelers are the biggest threat in the AFC to the Kansas City Chiefs, if such a thing exists. But the Cleveland Browns present a huge challenge to the Pittsburgh Steelers, starting with coaching. Like I said last week, Kevin Stefanski can scheme it up with the best of them. And if Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt get going and Baker Mayfield is able to use his legs and use the run and use play action and get the ball to his playmakers, Pittsburgh can be in for a long day. So I'm super excited for that matchup. And it wouldn't surprise me one bit if Baker Mayfield was able to come out with a win this weekend, even against a great Steelers team.
I'm not taking away from their win. I'm just saying when you're missing Big Ben, you're missing T.J. Watt, you insert those pieces and that 3-point loss turns into a 10-point win. And Another thing, their coaching unit has COVID just swirling about right now this morning. Kevin Stefanski and 3 other coaches got it. So whether those guys are going to be on the sideline and be able to be with the team is a whole other question. And honestly, that plays a bigger role than someone might think. You want your guys you've been working all year long to be on in the playoffs and in these moments. And if they can't all be together, that'll throw another element in that's going to be hard to overcome for the Browns.
Yeah, and like you said, you want your players who've been with you all year to play, and that's one player who's going to be back to help support is on the defensive side for the Browns. Denzel Ward is possibly coming back for the Browns, so having him being able to cover up one of the Steelers' best 3 receivers, having him back is going to take a bunch of pressure off of Baker Mayfield, and I think Baker is going to he's going to have to rely on his defense, and he's not going to have to turn the ball over for him to get this win.
Yeah, also Olivia Vernon's out for the Browns, one of their best pass rushers, so that's going to be a huge loss. And but let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the NFC playoff picture. Obviously Washington clinched the NFC East with the Week 17 win over the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday night. The Rams knocked off Arizona with a backup quarterback to punch their ticket and simultaneously cleared the way for the Chicago Bears to return to postseason play. with all three of those NFC teams headed into wild card weekend as underdogs, who do you think is most likely to pull off the upset? Lucas, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with the Rams on this one. I like the Rams' chances to knock off the Seahawks. Scott, I know you're going to talk about the football team. I like the football team. I'm pulling for them to win because between Alex Smith and Chase Young, it's just a cool story. But more realistically, I see the Rams beating the Seahawks. Seattle is just 2-2 versus playoff teams this season, while the Rams are 4-2. They have more experience playing better teams and a better winning percentage playing against those teams. And additionally, we've seen games this year where Russell Wilson was probably the leading MVP candidate going into week 6-ish. And then he had a series of games where he was just sputtering. And when he's bad, their offense is very bad. And that can't happen this week when they have that pass-heavy offense relying on Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. And this is a defense that can make Wilson bad. So they're going to have some struggles. He's played twice against them this year. The series is split, but Wilson has just 230 yards per game with 1 total touchdown and 2 interceptions in those games. I mean, those are modest, if not poor numbers for Russell Wilson. With Aaron Donald leading that front line and Jalen Ramsey holding down the backfield, I think it's very possible the Seahawks go down. A crazy stat I actually just saw in one of the most prolific passing seasons, probably in NFL history, Jalen Ramsey has only allowed 20 yards per game in his coverage this year. I think that defense is just going to cause some big problems for Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, and I think the Rams will be moving on.
Love that stat about Jalen Ramsey. And something I want to bring up before I get to my point with the Rams, I don't know, and if anybody's watching, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't really remember a time where a defense had arguably the best defensive player in all of football and arguably the best corner in all of football on the same team. That is ridiculous. That is a scary combination. So I'm looking forward to see those two go against Russell Wilson this weekend.
And I think last year when they first had those guys, they got Ramsey, and they kind of, not everything was, meshing the best. Last year, their defense just didn't perform where it could have. They were heavily relied on that offense and McVay's firepower offense. Yeah. And this year, now that defense is just locked down. I think it's going to cause some big problems for Russell Wilson.
And they're not heading into the environment that Seattle usually is. I know it's a weird season. It's COVID. It's all over the place. They're not heading into the ruckus environment that Seattle is. It's gonna be an easier game for the Rams, I think. And then Goff and Kupp are possibly coming back, so you're gonna have your offensive weapons back at full strength. Sean McVay's his genius is gonna show here. His offense is gonna be running all over the field. I think the Seahawks win, the Rams win 27-20, I think here.
He threw out a score prediction. It sounds about right to me though.
Yeah, man. And thanks a little bit earlier for the introduction to my Washington take, Lucas, basking my glory a little bit. But yeah, as our loyal watchers know, I picked Washington to win the NFC East on this show mid-season, and even last week I said the football team would be a real threat to knock off the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a wild card matchup. And I feel even better about that prediction today, standing before you, because
before you go, I hate to cut you off. I just have to say, I'm gonna give you your take. You won it. You called it early on in the season. They're gonna win it.
Thank you.
But I don't know how much it counts when the Eagles pull a weak move like that. I got to keep it PG on here, but that was a weak move, or G-rated. Sorry, I'm PG. No, that was a weak move, and there's no room for that. But you won the bet, so
it is what it is. I mean, that could really go into a whole nother topic. I don't think Philadelphia or Doug Peterson owes anybody outside of their organization anything. Correct. So I don't take too much stock into that, but
it's just disgraceful to competition, disgraceful to the game of football, disgraceful to your players and your coaching staff who have been working all year long to win games. And when you do something
like that,
when you do something like that on purpose, just to take away from a team's chances, the Cowboys and the Giants were fighting for their playoff lives that day, for what they thought was a chance of their playoff lives. And to do something like that, there's just no room for it.
So one thing one thing I didn't like was seeing Jalen Hurts on the sideline after obviously him hearing the news and probably hearing that he was, being benched for Nate Sudfeld. And, he was obviously disappointed. And that part of it I don't like. But like Isaiah just said, if you're the Giants, you have no reason to be upset. Handle your own business. Don't be 1-7 at the midway point of the season or start the season 0-5 or 0-6 like you did. Don't worry about what anybody else has going on. They have nobody else to blame but themselves. And the idea that Philadelphia did what they did to spite another team in their division is ridiculous to me. But anyway, before we go down that rabbit hole that could probably be discussed at another point, the reason I really like Washington this weekend to possibly score the upset is exactly what Washington team is going to show up. They're going to lean on that elite defense that's top 5 in total yards allowed, passing yards, and points allowed per game. They're going to lean on Antonio Gibson to control time of possession, and they're going to rely on Terry McLaurin and Logan Thomas to finish drives with touchdowns. Very similar to what I said last week. Tampa has been as hot and cold as any team this season, and the only thing they really do consistently is struggle against teams with elite pass rushes. Their 5 losses on the year, as I said last week. The Saints twice. The Bears, the Rams, and the Chiefs have all come against teams who get after the quarterback. And newsflash, Chase Young and Montez Sweat do just that. They've combined for 16.5 sacks this season. And like I said last week, if you make Tom Brady uncomfortable at his old age, the Bucs will probably lose. It's who they are. Now if Tom Brady is able to sit back in the pocket, if that rookie left tackle Tristan Wirfs has himself a game and he's able to sit back and deliver the ball, worry-free, Washington's going to be in for a long day. But if not, Washington is really live to score this upset, and couple that with the fact that Devin White, who leads the Bucs with 9 sacks, is going to be out due to COVID, and Mike Evans might be compromised if he even suits up after hyperextending his left knee last week. I really like Washington to score the upset here, and also they're at home, so I'm really looking forward to that matchup here.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you on that pass rush, but I'll tell you this: I would never bet against Tom Brady in the playoffs. As old as he is, he always finds a way to get it done.
We'll see.
Yeah, that was going to be my argument. I was just going to give you 2 words, and that was going to be Tom Brady. I mean, he's one of the greatest NFL playoff performers ever. 6 rings. I think that speaks enough to it. You said Chase Young is going to come out. Chase Young wanted Tom Brady, and he's going to get Tom Brady. Yep. So he better come out and have like a Von Miller type performance, I think. And he better perform very well if you want Tom Brady in the playoffs.
I want Tom Brady, the words of Chase Young. But we're going to take a break here. When we come back, we're going to tackle the college football playoff and the incoming national championship. This is BVM Sports Chalk Talk. We'll be right back. Welcome back to episode 11 of BVM Sports Chalk Talk. We're going to move down now to the college ranks and discuss next week's national championship. Number 1, Alabama, and number 3, Ohio State each had dominating wins in the college football playoff semifinals and will face off for the first time since the 2015 Sugar Bowl, in which the Buckeyes upset the number 1 Crimson Tide. Alabama and its pair of Heisman finalists are a touchdown favorite for this matchup. But how can the Buckeyes knock off Nick Saban and company again? What do you guys think?
I think it comes down to Justin Fields and how he played. He absolutely tore apart Clemson last week. 22 of 28 passes, 385 yards, 6 touchdowns, only 1 turnover. He ran the ball for 5 yards a carry. This game is all going to come down to Justin Fields, I think. If they need another standout game from Justin Fields in order for the Buckeyes to win. It's going to be a close. It's going to be a 45-42 game. I think it's going to be fireworks city. I think, and it's all going to come down to Justin Fields and for the Buckeyes to pull this off.
I agree that, Justin Fields is going to have a good game, but I think he will. The Alabama defense isn't that great. He's been consistent all year long. I'm going to go on the opposite side of the ball. I think they'll have to play a near perfect game defensively. Their defense is going to have to play one of the best games they've probably ever played. These offenses are going to battle. Najee Harris, Mac Jones, Devontae Smith versus, Justin Fields, Trey Sermon, Chris Olave. There's NFL talent all around. So I know that OSU can play with them offensively. But if Ohio State can just slow them down, they may be able to do it because Fields, is going to put up points. The Alabama defense is susceptible to letting up some big-time plays. They allow 350 yards a game and a little over 2 touchdowns. But Ohio State, they allow 370 yards a game and roughly the same amount of touchdowns. But that's arguably the best college football conference there was this year, lots of ranked teams. So if they can come out and get the first stop, they've been strong up front all year long. Their linebacker unit has been impressive. Outside of Sean Wade in the secondary, they need more. Marcus Hooker and Sevyn Banks, or they're going to have to step up and cause problems for their defense to take a step forward and slow down Alabama. I think it's going to be one of those games where whoever can get the first stop puts themselves in a winning position and they never look back.
Yeah, like you said, I don't think Justin Fields really hasn't been consistent all year. I mean, if you look at those games against Indiana and Northwestern, he definitely struggled, but he found something in the Big Ten championship game against Northwestern at the end in the second half. He found something he was able to overcome that, and then he was able to shine against Clemson. So that's one knock I had on here. He really hasn't been consistent all year, but he's found a way to win, and that's what I think he'll do. It's all on Justin Fields for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a stretch to just assume that Justin Fields is going to roll out of bed and play spectacular against Alabama's defense. Because this Alabama team is just so good on both sides of the ball. Obviously, the number one ranking and, their plethora of talents speaks for itself. And, again, kind of piggybacking off Isaiah's point, Justin Fields he's going to have to play, to use Luke's analogy, he's going to have to play a near perfect game, as he did last week versus Clemson. But I don't even think that would be enough. Fields and his 6 touchdowns are much of the story of that semifinal win over Clemson. But Trey Sermon and that Buckeye offensive line dominated Clemson and won that game for them. Sermon had 193 yards on the ground, and Ohio State rushed for 254 as a team. I think back to that 2015 Sugar Bowl that I mentioned in the lead-in, and this matchup seems eerily similar. The Alabama team was loaded, undefeated, and led by Derrick Henry and Amari Cooper, who obviously are mainstays in the NFL now. And, when you think back to that, how did Ohio State win that game? Cardale Jones, Ohio State's quarterback, he made plays. He didn't commit the costly turnover, but a man by the name of Ezekiel Elliott ran wild behind that offensive line for 230 yards and 2 touchdowns. If Ohio State can control the line of scrimmage with the run game, obviously it'll open up the downfield shots to Chris Olave and others, and more importantly, keep Alabama's explosive offense on the sideline. Again, Alabama's offensive and defensive front is not easily controlled, which obviously presents a difficult challenge. But if Trey Sermon looks like the better running back on Monday, the Buckeyes just might hoist a trophy. But
I don't really have much to say about that. I think,
I know I just knocked out the park, right? What else could you say in debate of that? But
I think both offenses, my point to try to be made. Well, first of all, Trey Sermon is no Ezekiel Elliott. Let's get that straight right now. But
completely agree. Wasn't trying to make that comparison.
NFL caliber talent on both sides. Both offenses are going to run wild. But Alabama's won their games by just being elite offensively. So it comes down to, Ohio State's going to be able to score on their defense. So if Ohio State's defense can come to play, they need to take away Alabama's calling card, which is their offense. I know it's near impossible to do, but they're going to win this game on defense. Offense, both teams are going to score points. It's just inevitable. But the defense is going to need to step up for them to win.
I get that. I just think having a balanced attack for Ohio State is going to allow them to put those points on the board that you clearly think are, a guarantee. They have to be balanced. They have to be able to control first and second down and not have Alabama just sit back in coverage and wait for Justin Fields to, basically make a mistake. And obviously we've mentioned, the big time players in this game. And obviously there's a ton of future NFL talent that will suit up in Monday's National Championship. But who do you think is the most NFL-ready prospect in this matchup? Is it one of Bama's Heisman finalists or someone else? Isaiah, what do you think?
I kind of got a sleeper pick here. It's we mentioned him maybe 2 seconds ago. Trey Sermon of the Ohio State Buckeyes. I know he's probably not Najee Harris or Devontae Smith first round. He doesn't have that first round appeal, but against Northwestern, he ran for 331 yards, averaged 11.4 yards a carry, scored twice against that Northwestern defense, who was pretty stout in Big Ten. At Clemson, he went nearly for 200 yards, averaged 6 yards a carry, and he's drawing comparison to Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs was a backup at Alabama, and Trey Sermon, and now he's a beast in the NFL. Josh Jacobs is. Trey Sermon he's flying under the radar right now. I think he can sneak into the end of the first round of the draft in 2021 this year, but it wouldn't surprise me if he falls to early in the second day, but I really want him to go in the first round.
I'm going to transition over to Alabama. I like your dark horse pick. It's just not, it's just not the right pick though. It has to be Devontae Smith. This season he's having is otherworldly. We're talking about a guy who straight up impossible to defend. He won AP Player of the Year, making him the first wide receiver to win the award since its inception in 1998. He broke the all-time SEC career record for most receiving touchdowns. He has 20 touchdowns going into the national title. That's over 2 touchdowns a game. He is an NFL scout's dream at the position. Of course, he's killing the college game, but he has all the skills that translate to playing on Sundays. He has elite ball skills and body control, and he plays at one speed the entire time, and that's fast. His routes, his after-catch ability, his effort, whether he's in or out of the play, it's fast. He's one of the best blocking receivers out there. He's just had one of the most dominant seasons I can recall in a long while. And I think of all the other Heisman candidates, he's the one who showed up week after week, just dominating the game.
Yeah, it's hard to argue against Devontae Smith. I think he has the potential to have a Justin Jefferson, Jerry Jeudy type impact right away in the NFL. And, obviously I like Trey Sermon. I mentioned him earlier. I think, if he has a huge national championship, that will really bode well for his NFL prospects. But Najee Harris is the answer here because of the talent, athleticism, and the size that just jump off the screen. He looks every bit of a third down back. And because the running back position is such a plug-and-play spot where rookies typically have a higher rate of success compared to other positions, he can make an NFL team better right now in the 2021 NFL season. I like that you mentioned Josh Jacobs earlier, Isaiah. He's one. James Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, all guys we saw make an immediate impact as a rookie running back. We just saw Clyde Edwards-Helaire have arguably his best game of the season on opening night for the Chiefs. Najee can run through you, past you, around you, and apparently he can run over the top of you too if you allow him. We saw what he's capable of as a pass catcher in the SEC Championship, catching 3 touchdowns in that game. And, he's also had 3 games this season with at least 5 catches. So he's obviously a all-around back. He's the number 2 running back on most draft boards behind Travis Etienne, but he's the most NFL-ready prospect we'll see playing on Monday night. 1,400 yards and 24 rushing touchdowns. The man's averaging 6 yards a carry this season. Obviously, the Alabama offensive line is special, but Najee Harris is very special in his own right with a super bright future in the NFL.
What I will say is that Najee Harris, I think he's surpassed, in my mind at least, Travis Etienne. Etienne had such a weak year, but the stock that he built for himself last year, it's hard to fall down from that. I think Najee Harris is a great pick, but he reminds me a lot of Mark Ingram. He can pass it. He can catch the pass. He can run people over. And he can go around him. Mark Ingram, when he first entered the league, was the man. For a while, he was the man. And they have that similar build, a similar playing style. I think he'll be like that in the NFL.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the only knock I would have on selecting an Alabama running back is not really a lot of Alabama running backs go into the league and really have a major impact right away. Like Luke said, Mark Ingram, but you have Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs are really like only the recent backs I can remember from Alabama coming out and making a complete impact in the NFL right away. You put him against in front or behind a subpar offensive line, he's not going to perform that well, I don't think. He's a talented guy, and when he deserves to be in the NFL, no doubt. But my only knock would be that Alabama running backs really haven't prospered that much in the NFL. Trent Richardson was the guy at Alabama, didn't really do anything. Eddie Lacy was the guy at Alabama, didn't really do anything.
TJ
Yeldon, yep.
It's pretty ridiculous the standard that we hold Alabama to when you can produce Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Mark Ingram off the top just at one position, and we think that they can't produce, players at that position. That's kind of interesting to me. I've heard that take a lot, and I kind of think the opposite way. Obviously, how often do we see other schools? Obviously, Alabama is the pinnacle of college football, but how many times do we see at one position, especially running back position, have such success in the NFL? Obviously, there's been
Wisconsin. That's the only other team I can think of.
Exactly.
James White, John Clay.
The only competitor, really, right?
Melvin Gordon.
Right. So, what I'm saying? I think Alabama's
Jonathan
pedigree.
Taylor.
Right. Exactly. Obviously, I think Alabama's pedigree, at the running back position, obviously every position as a whole, but especially, toting that rock, the Crimson Tide, they get it done. And Najee Harris, I think, is next in line to, make a huge impact.
I wouldn't sleep on Justin Fields either. I know Ohio State quarterbacks haven't been the best coming out. Ohio State quarterbacks, when they hit the NFL, they're not doing very well. But when Ohio State, I think something's different with Justin Fields. He fits where the NFL is heading in that. And if Urban Meyer gets that Jacksonville job, I wouldn't be surprised if Jacksonville takes him number 1. which would be a knock on Trevor Lawrence. But I think Justin Fields can help an NFL team right now.
And you bring up Fields. How do you guys feel about Mac Jones? I mean, the man is a Heisman finalist. Do you guys kind of feel that way about, how Isaiah's feeling about Alabama running backs? Is that how you feel about Alabama quarterbacks in the league as well? Obviously, they've had their struggles at that position and transferring to the NFL. What do you think about Mac Jones' NFL prospects?
I'll say something real quick. Mac Jones, I know the league is revolving. The league's trying – no one tear this apart real quick. He just doesn't have the athleticism I think it takes to be an NFL quarterback. I know you can say, oh, Big Ben, Tom Brady, Drew Brees. They aren't the most athletic guys either, but the league is transitioning. We're seeing more Kyler Murrays, Lamar Jacksons, those type of guys. So I think he's a great college quarterback. I don't know that transitions to the NFL.
Cool. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us here. Episode 11 of BVM Sports Chalk Talk. Thanks for joining us. This is Scott Procter, joined by Lucas, Semb, and Isaiah Butler. Have a great week, and we'll catch you next time.